And don't worry, I wasn't recording when you said all that bad shit about your boss.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem.
This is 911. State your emergency. Hello, I can't help you if I don't know where you're at, honey. Where are you at? Where are you? I need as many units as I can get for Fairfield Road. Give me the numbers.
911, what's your emergency?
Hey friends, it's Fletch. I'm Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Welcome to this new podcast series, Off the Cuff, Confessions of an ENP. Brought to you by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 services for the enterprise today and making every second count. In this series, we're going to be talking to ENPs that have been on the job for years, as well as those brand new ENPs that have just passed the test. We'll dig in and have an in-depth conversation and find out what the ENP certification means to them. We'll talk about why they did it, what it means for their career, and what they did to pass the exam. Industry certifications are important to industry professionals, and the ENP certification is one that's admired by many in public safety. So join me as we find out exactly what makes an ENP tick in this off-the-cuff podcast series, Confessions of an ENP. Hey, it's Fledge. Welcome once again to this episode of Off the Cuff, True Confessions of an ENP. And today we're talking with Kris Nichols, who is a communications training officer down in, what's the name of your agency again? I had it written down and I lost it.
We call it the NRV 911 Communication Center.
New River Valley Emergency Communications Authority.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Down there in Christiansburg, Virginia. Where is Christiansburg? And don't tell me Virginia.
Do you know where Roanoke is at all?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Roanoke, Virginia.
Yes,
okay,
ma'am.
So we're about 40 minutes from there. And okay, if you know where Virginia Tech University is.
Oh yeah.
In Blacksburg, we dispatch for Virginia Tech. So we're in Montgomery County, and our agency is in Christiansburg, but we dispatch for the entirety of Montgomery County.
Oh, okay.
So Montgomery County Sheriff's Office, Christiansburg Police Department, Blacksburg Police Department, and the Virginia Tech University Police Department. Okay. And then the 11 fire and rescue agencies that are all within that.
Name them all. No, I'm just kidding.
I could.
I know you could. So how long have you been doing this gig? I've
been doing this a little over 7 years now.
Wow. Why did you get into this?
When I graduated college back in 2014, I had a degree in theater performance and design. And I wanted to do a lot of technical stuff. I really wanted to be a director or something behind the scenes. And that's what I did all throughout college. And that was the big dream I had. But I wasn't really willing to go to Los Angeles or New York or anything like that. So I kind of had to shift the dream a little bit. But I came home and I started to apply for a bunch of jobs. And my dad, who was working at the police department, he's been an officer since the 80s. He said, there's a dispatch position open. You can come be a dispatcher. And I sort of kind of knew what they did, but for the most part, I really didn't know. And I said, okay, sure. I'll go work there for, a couple months until something comes along. In 7 years, I'm still here.
So did you know right away, or did it take a little bit to grow on you? When did you find out that being a public safety communications official was really what was going to be your career?
I don't think there was an exact defining moment, but I do remember, because the agency I started out with is not the agency I'm in right now. I worked for the Franklin City Police Department in Franklin, Virginia. And when I decided to move up here to the mountains, I got the job at NRV.
When you got fired?
Yeah. When I started I got out of training, and I pretty much was trained kind of trial by fire. I remember I walked in one morning and they told me that 2 separate dispatchers had had quit in that week. And I'd only been there for a little bit. They were like, well, sit on down because it's time to work. So I really had to train hands-on very much so at that agency. But I remember once I got through training and I started to kind of get the hang of it, and people were just the officers relied on me and my coworkers relied on me. And my dad was really proud of me, and I was just doing a really good job. And I think for me, that's just what kind of clicked. Like, oh, I'm making people proud, and they trust me to do this job, and I didn't get fired. So like I made it through training, and that was back, the agency is really small, and we would be dispatching almost by ourselves the entirety of the night.
Right.
And I just remember sitting there at 22, 23. Wow, I'm in charge of this whole city. It's 3:00 in the morning and it's me.
But it's cool when things just happen and you don't know why, and it isn't planned. It's just you're reacting and it's clicking, right? It's just such a cool feeling. And unless you've been there and done that, you can't even begin to understand that feeling of accomplishment. It's like you're outside of your body and things are just happening. I had a couple of nights when that happened. Yeah, I was dispatching when I was dispatching back in the 80s, from like 80 to 85. I had a couple of nights where things were just totally clicking and happening. And that is the coolest feeling. It's just like almost an out-of-body experience. It's just happening.
That's what I thought. I mean, there were times when, it was a small town. So there were times where I would go all night and nothing really would happen. But I do remember that first night where I did have all by myself. And I remember all my coworkers were like, we're going to stay up tonight. You just text us, you call us, like, we'll be right here if you need us. Because the town was 8 square miles. You can get anywhere really fast. But I remember I made it through my entire night. And I'd answer calls by myself. I dispatched, I sent out the fire department, and like I made it through. And everybody was okay. Nobody got hurt.
And nobody died.
And it was, and I remember that feeling. And I think after having a lot of shifts like that, where I would come in and it really was just hitting the fan, and my coworkers trusted me enough where they didn't feel like they had to watch me. They knew that I was going to be good on my own and get everything done. And I think after having shift after shift after shift with that, it's like, oh, I am good at this. I can continue doing this. And that's why I stay. That's why I have stayed in this position, in this career, because I know I'm always learning stuff, and every day I walk into the office and there's something I didn't know before, but I'm good at it. And that's why I like to stay, because I know that I'm helping people, but people also trust me to help others. I think that's the biggest thing for me, knowing that my administration trusts me to actually be on the floor.
Well, you think they do. I mean, you don't really hear what they say behind your back, because they've said things to me. But hey, if you feel good about it, that's great. No, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. You got a great attitude. What brought you into being a CTO?
I remember it is years ago at this point. I had only been in my agency, the one that I started out as, about a year and a half. And I just thought it was so cool. I was like, wow, I can get promoted somewhere. I can do something else. Like I can go up and do something different. And I talked to my administration about it. And at our old agency, we had people that were trainers, but it wasn't an official title. And we didn't even have supervisors. Everybody was just kind of on the same plane. But I remember I did talk them into letting me go through the APCO CTO class. And that was back in 2015, maybe 2016.
Oh God, ages ago.
Ages ago. So long. And so I took that, and I had maybe one trainee before I ended up leaving. But when I came to my agency I'm at right now, it was a legit promotion. It wasn't, we have communications officers, CTOs, and then supervisors.
Okay.
And I knew that when I got through my training the second time around, because I did have to spend a couple months in training at my agency I'm at right now. And I remember that it was just something I wanted so bad. I said, because I had been doing it long enough that I knew that I wanted to train, because to me, I think training is so fascinating and it is so needed. And I'm a very structured rule kind of person. I like having everything laid out for me. I like having everything, very black and white sometimes. And that's one of the reasons why I like training so much. So it took a couple years at my agency because there weren't any openings, at least on my shift, because I liked my shift and I didn't want to have to move. But when there was an opening on my shift.
What shift were you working?
I'm working daylight. It's alpha shift for us, but it's 7A to 7P.
Okay.
And we do long week, short week.
Yep.
And we have 4 shifts.
Yep.
And I had spent
What's your swing day? Wednesday?
We actually don't have a swing day. We end up doing we use like comp time at the end of the week. So like on our short week, we have Wednesday, Thursday, and then we use the comp time for those 4 hours at the end.
Yeah, we did something similar. We worked, the shifts were Sunday to Wednesday for the long week, and then Thursday, the other, Thursday, Friday, Saturday for the short week. And and I used to love 12s. You do when you're working, we did 4 days and then 3 days, and then you come off, and then you go to nights, and you don't have to be back until Sunday at 6 p.m. You're getting off on Tuesday at 6 p.m. and you don't have to be back in until Sunday at 6 p.m. It's like,
we had a shift like that at my old agency, and we did have a swing day where I'm pretty sure it was like Wednesday for a couple of us.
Yeah, and but if you time your days off right, it's like you can get a string of 10 days and go do something and not miss work, right?
That's what we did where I used to work. We would have a 6-day off stretch. And then if you took like 1 and 1, then we'd have over a week. And I'd go visit my mom because she had recently moved and everything. But that shift, those shifts were kind of chaotic because we did 10s. And it was 6 to 4, 4 to 2, 10 to 8, and 8 to 6.
Oh, wow.
And we didn't really have a set schedule. So there were a lot of times I was just up and down. Sometimes I'd work that 4 to 2, and then 2 days later I'd come in at 6 in the morning. Wow. So that's why I'm very thankful for my agency right now that it's the set 7 to 7, long week, short week. I've pretty much been on the same schedule for 5 years now.
Wow. Now that's pretty cool. And then we used to flip ends of the week once a year as well. So we would migrate from Sunday to Wednesday on the long week, and then it would be Wednesday to Saturday night or Sunday morning on the long week on the other. So it was kind of a rough schedule to get used to because you went days and nights, and then every 6 months you swapped ends of the week.
Yeah.
But it kind of gave everybody a little taste of everything, and I don't know. I liked it. You could plan your life out for 4 months ahead of time.
Oh, I do. I have my entire schedule pretty much.
Oh, I can imagine.
For the next 12 months. But I know at the agency I'm at now, I spent a couple stints on night shift because I was low man and we were short staffed. So I've done collectively about a year on night shift. And I did a lot of night shift when I first started out. And I love night shift. I personally, for my family and for my life, it doesn't work for me now. It was okay years ago when I wasn't married with kids, but now it's very, very difficult. And then some people think the complete opposite. I have some friends at work that would never go to daylight. Absolutely not.
They're not daytime people.
No. And, we do need those people. Like we need the people like me that just love days, and we need the people that love nights. Yeah.
No, I remember one guy, his name was, we'll call him Donald for lack of just knowing who he really is. But yeah, he was a night creature, and not sure he really came out from behind the desk ever, but he's just always kind of there. But so what brought you into being an ENP? What drove you after this long to go take your ENP?
A lot of it was, I won't say that I get bored, but I feel like when I've achieved a goal that I
don't ever admit that on a job.
When I get to a certain level, I'm like, well, what can I do now? What's the next thing that I can do? Plus, being a trainer, I know that I came up with I felt like I was falling short with a lot of stuff. Everything like when service interruptions would happen or certain things would pop up on the Amy Alley screen or just anything about next gen or legacy stuff. And things were coming up and I didn't know how to explain it. I'd always have to be like, well, I don't know the answer. Let me get you to somebody that does.
Yep.
And I don't really like that feeling. And I know one good thing about the pandemic was that a lot of stuff started to become virtual. And I know back in, spring of last year, I started watching virtual conferences when they were coming out.
Sure.
And I saw a couple people had the ENP. So, well, that's kind of cool. And so I started researching it, and I was like, this is exactly what I needed. Like, this is something that I can do. And I ended up going to, my job sent me to Apco, Texas last year, and I had a blast. And I met so many wonderful people. And I was talking to a bunch of women, like the Wonder Women, people from Nina. And everyone was like, of course you can get it. Like this, like everybody was encouraging me and hyping me up. And so I spent the better part of 10, 11 months studying for it.
Wow.
And when I wanted to really, really understand it. And I'm not an extremely technical person, so it did take me a little bit longer to grasp the concepts. But I just really wanted to become better at my job, because that's my job. I'm a trainer. I'm supposed to be training the new generation of dispatchers. And there were a lot of questions that I realized I did not know. I wasn't taught that 7 years ago.
Sure.
That's one of the reasons why I really wanted it. And now I feel like I am no expert, but I know so much more now than I did a year ago about 911 in general. And that makes me feel very confident. Turns around and makes me a better trainer.
And I don't mean this as a diss, but there are a lot of people in the industry that are very knowledgeable people, but they don't have that full rounded background, especially on the technology side, right? They know what they know because they've absorbed it. And it really doesn't take too much more to fully understand all the nuts and bolts, when it's laid out in front of you. But a lot of people don't get the opportunity to get down into it that deep. And it's a shame, because when you do, I think you get a whole new appreciation for the technology.
Oh,
you get a whole
absolutely.
new appreciation of the failures and your troubleshooting skills. Bam, bam, bam. There are major network outages that have happened over the years where it was literally boop, a simple fix, but it took them days to find it. And it was because of poor troubleshooting tools.
Yeah.
Right.
And a lot of it, the biggest thing for me is the anti-alley screen. And I've been looking at this screen for a very long time. And there were just certain things on there that I knew what they were, but I didn't know what they were.
Yeah. It's like, oh, that stuff. Oh, it's like that. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, that's just what happens. This is what pops up. So I remember while I was doing the studying for ENP, I decided to make a training packet for my agency where I took my anti-alley screen, and with a fine-tooth comb, I went through it, and line by line by line, I deciphered it. And I have a training packet. It's still being reviewed by my admin right now, but it's how to decipher an anti-alley packet along with 911 wireline and wireless call processing.
Wow.
And it's like a 20-page packet, and it has everything from wireline to wireless to VoIP to PBX, all of it. And I just want trainees I just wanted it for myself. I really just made it for 22-year-old Kriss. It's really what I just made it for. I wish I had it back in the day. And I don't know if it'll help anybody, but it was a good way for me to take all the skills that I was learning and put it into something tangible that I could see. And I ended up going, and I have little like stick figures with the phone call. Like I made my own graphics on how does it start versus how does it end.
Download the Google Home app.
So that's what I've been working on that lately, but it's, back to the original question. That's why I wanted my ENP. I wanted to be better, and I wanted to understand more, because I was running into things in my job where I didn't understand, especially like service interruptions and certain things that were happening on the floor. And I'm like, I don't know how to explain this. I don't know what's going on. So I really just wanted to really get at my job more than I already did.
So you triggered on something, Kriss, that really hits home with me. I'm not sure if you're aware, but I wrote Kerrys Law. You're familiar with Kerrys Law. So I am all about, MLTS, PBX reporting in the anti-alley. And most of the time, address line 2 is non-existent. I find a lot of agencies don't even display it. It's there in the raw anti-alley record on the back end, but it's not displayed on the front end. You got to kind of go digging for it. And when there is anything there, it's usually non-decipherable information, at least to the dispatcher. It's non-relevant, like cube 2C231. where the hell is that? What does that even mean?
Right. I don't know what that is. Yeah.
So tell me about, I'm being selfish here, but tell me about the MLTS piece of your training packet. What do you tell people about that?
So I think there are some things that don't show up on our Annie Alley. I still need to look into it, because right now on my the best way that I did it for this little training packet was that I went in, and every time someone got a 911 call from a certain thing, I'd jump up, I need that. and I'd print it off and run into the server room and take it out, and we'd get a little piece of paper, and I would translate it onto a Word document or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much have one for the multi-lines, the PBX, I think it's Centrix or CTX. Been looking for those.
Mm-hmm.
And I pretty much have in every page of this packet, it has what it is. And then I explain what each thing is. So when a call taker sees it or a new trainee sees it, they understand, okay, this is probably at a campus somewhere. This is probably coming from the hospital. These 3 little letters may not mean a lot to people, but this is what they mean. And I have, I took all the definitions from Nina because I wanted to make sure that I was getting them right. So I have a page of definitions. I have what it looks like if it hasn't rebid versus what it looks like when you rebid. And I explain that process. I have, I'm working on right now the ESNs and the ESCs of my county, but I know some of them, like where I'm stuck right now is at the emergency service zones, because I know they're not extremely relevant to what we need right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, so it's not 100% done. I've been going through it. But in reference to like how I exactly explain like what the different phones are, I just took the definitions off of Nina and put it on there and explained it. But I am nowhere near an expert yet. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this, because I'm trying to force myself to know exactly what they all mean. So maybe I'll have you write something up for me, and I can put it as a little side note on there.
So, just when you get this document finished, next gen will be here and all that'll be irrelevant. No, it'll still be relevant.
That's exactly how I feel at this point.
Yeah. So
I don't think we're getting next gen for a while. I think it's sometime in 23. We do have text and 911, but everything else, I think it's a little bit at the end of 23.
Well, so that's another stick in my craw is text to 911. Do you get location with the text?
We do, unless there's something wrong. We usually, we don't get it very much. It's been well advertised. The county knows we have it, but it is very rare we get a text to 911.
Yeah. Most of the text to 911 that come in are people testing.
Yeah.
So, it's one of those things. It was a great idea, but and it needs to be there. I mean, you should be any device you can communicate on. I believe you should be able to signal emergency services on anything that you communicate with. I mean, the thing that's happening now is people are communicating in a very, very different model. You have WhatsApp, you have all the other things. You don't really make phone calls on there, but you communicate on them, and in people's minds, they're making the connection. Well, how do I WhatsApp my local police department? They don't understand all the technology that just makes the phone stuff work to make that work on a WhatsApp app. Now you're really stretching.
Well, and that's one of the things I tell, because I didn't understand this years ago, and now I'm in it. I finally get it. But I'd always tell my new trainees, like when people dial 911, they really have, the majority of the public does not understand. So when they get frustrated with you, when you can't see them or you don't know exactly where they are, pinpoint location. That's one of the reasons why I'm working on this packet. I want to be able to give it to new trainees so they understand sometimes the frustration of the public. And I said, Snapchat, it's geo, like Uber Eats and Lyft and Uber, all of those things. All you have to do is click an app and they know exactly, and you can watch the little like Uber driver get to you. I said, 911 is not there yet. We're getting there. We've got the technology and we're trying to implement it, but we're not there yet.
And people can't believe that. How can 911's 50 years old? How can you not have that?
Right. And that's what I've been trying to, like, when I wrapped my brain around it, when I fully understood that this isn't how it works yet.
And you're
that's
blonde.
why I've been that's why I've been trying to, make these training things so I can explain to the new people we hire, the frustrations are frustrations, I said, but when you're having someone like really upset and they really don't know, that you have no idea where they are.
Exactly.
And like, that's one of the reasons why I want to make sure that people fully understand the Annie Alley screen and like what's actually on there line by line, especially if residential, where they are. You just have to verify and make sure it's correct. But when it comes in phase 1 and you see the little map somewhere pinging on the tower, you're going to have to do more investigation. So
sure. The public doesn't understand this as well. Do you see any value of training the public, or at least educating the public?
Oh, 100%.
What do you see that as something that you should be doing, or your department, or where do you see that fitting?
I don't even know. I wish it was something way higher than us. Like, I wish it was more of maybe a government thing or something, that where somebody with a bigger platform that can explain it to the general public. I know there's a lot of really good resources out there for it. But I don't really know how to answer that, honestly. I don't really know if it would be something agency-wide or statewide or national.
I think something that you could do, or your agency, would be including that in school programs. They've got Cell Phone Sally. She makes them. That's a national thing. But I think it's important that kids get kind of early educated on that kind of stuff, so you can kind of steer their expectations a little bit.
Yeah, I know we have a wonderful group of school resource officers, and I know they do. I've never actually seen it. I know they do some education to the kids, but I've personally never seen what that all entails.
So you should be involved in that. That's something you can suggest. I think because you're the one training the call takers, you should at least be in sync, brought in as a guest with those guys who are presenting with the school as well. So, and here's Kriss, and she's the one that trains our 911 dispatchers, and they should get to meet you and ask you questions directly as well. Not as a full-time thing, right? But you should
right.
be the special guest.
I remember I was still in college, so I think it may have been 2013. My sister and I were
You're doing this on purpose to me, but that's okay.
No, just for reference. Just trying to
okay.
Okay. My sister and I were in a horrible wreck. It was
goodness.
Very, very bad. And we both came out fine because we were driving a big Ford Explorer, so basically a tank. So thankfully we were all okay. But I remember calling 911, and I was hanging upside down with, glass in my face. So I know I was probably not the best 911 caller, but I remember just automatically assuming that they knew exactly where I was.
Right.
So I remember the only thing I told them was who I was, because my dad was working we wrecked right on the border. So I think the 911 call went originally to the county, but then they transferred it to the city, and it was where my dad worked. And I just remember telling them who I was and what happened. And I just assumed they knew where I was.
Yeah.
And it was a lot of them calming me down and coaching me through. And I didn't really know, because it was a kind of a turn that we didn't take very often. And I'm terrible with directions. Even as a dispatcher, I'm so bad at them. I'm very glad we have our mapping system. But, and I was a teenager, and I still didn't really understand how 911 works. I just thought, I'm calling from a cell phone, you should know exactly where I am.
Right.
So I always think about that too. I was screaming, crying. It was a very bad, traumatic experience. But if I knew a little more about 911, I probably would have been more hyper focused on location versus what was the emergency. So I always think about that.
So now that you're a certified EMP, where do you think that's going to take your career?
Oh, goodness. I don't know. I'm so passionate about training. I would love it to go in that general direction on training. I haven't figured out my next goal yet because I'm still kind of riding this high.
I see you as becoming a very popular training icon in this industry, just by your
Oh,
attitude
I
and your
appreciate it.
passion and your good common sense, and just walking in going, hey, you know what? I don't know everything, but I know a lot. And you know what? I'm good at what I do. So, I just think that's a cool attitude. Your
I
dad
try.
should be very proud of you.
He is. I think my whole family is. And I ended up my husband's a volunteer fireman, and I was really thankful to kind of connect with somebody like that in life. He understands the job. He's a network engineer by day,
Okay.
fireman by night.
Cool.
He was also a big help with ENP because every night I would go through, especially the telephony stuff, since he does network engineering and he has plenty of certs under his belt.
Sure.
I kind of tricked him into helping me study because I would tell him something and he knew a lot, but he didn't know any of the 911 side.
Sure.
So
he understood the networking side because all of that 911, not all that 911 switching on the back end, the really tough stuff. That's the same. 911 is a particular use case of that, but the telephone system operates that way. The networks that he operates and controls, they all work the same way, whether it's voice or data. The underlying architecture and the way the gears move, that's all the same.
Yes. So I was really lucky and really thankful that he found it interesting enough to want to study with me. So we bounced ideas off and we always joke that we got our ENP because he studied so much with me.
You married a flashcard.
Yeah, I was so thankful for him because it was something he already knew, and all he had to do. And I was really thankful for the people at Mission Critical, because the way I learn stuff is I have to do something. I have to make it. So when we got to the telephony part, I ended up making these big graphs of the wireline call processing and VoIP and wireline and wireless and all of them together. And then I would send them to the people at Mission Critical. And I'm like, is this right? Like, did I do this right? Because I wanted to make sure, because I can look at stuff all day, but unless I physically write it out and I create it and make it myself. So there were a lot of like phone calls and emails to the people over there, and I would send it to them, and then they'd call me and they'd say, okay, you're overthinking this. You got to bring it back. Like, this is way too detailed. You need to focus on this, So
did you work with Louisa Lake on that?
I did. Yeah, she was so helpful and so incredible. And whenever I'd send her something, she would refer me to the subject matter expert of whatever I was trying to work on.
Yeah. Kudos to Mission Critical too, because they really, they're in business as a consulting agency, but as far as promoting the industry and knowledge, just the pro bono stuff they do, like they've been doing. I mean, gosh, I studied mission critical stuff when I got my ENP back when you were still in probably a sophomore in high school. Or earlier. And I mean, they were great. And then the Colorado stuff, and now Tracy Eldridge has a great class as well. She got her ENP, and she's another go-getter. She got her ENP, and like 2 weeks later, she's on the phone with me. All right, I'm starting my own training class.
I mean, I feel that way. I mean, if, I don't want to lose the knowledge that I have. I spent a long time getting it. And that's why I like doing, once I'm done with this training packet that I'm working on, I want to shift my focus to probably another training packet. That's something I see that I need to do.
Good. Good for you. And don't be cheap and not share that stuff. You should share that. I mean, you should share that with the industry. And I mean, if you're allowed to, from your agency's perspective, but you can, that's how you become more embedded in the industry, by creating that kind of content and then sharing it. And who knows, maybe you start your own training class one day or be part of somebody else's.
Yeah. I'm working on a couple of training things right now. And I always just make my audience me 7 years ago. And it just helps me. Like, what would I have wished I knew? Or what did I, because I'm the kind of person that if I really struggled on something, I don't want the next person to.
Right.
Like there were some things in 911 that I just did not understand and I did not get. And now that I know what I'm doing, I don't ever want somebody else to go through that. And then sometimes I get trainees that are like, well, this is really easy. I'm like, yeah, yeah, it is. So easy.
If you get it, if it clicks in early, it really is easy, because I don't say easy. Easy is the wrong word. It's common sense.
Yeah.
Right. If you understand what the wheel does, it's pretty easy to figure out why a car rolls. Right. I mean, it's basic level stuff like that. But you got to understand. If you understand the machine, you can figure out why it does what it does.
Yeah. That's why I'm so happy that I finally pushed myself to completely understand. And I say completely, there's probably a couple little things that I still need help on, but just legacy 911 and exactly how it worked, because I had an idea, but I really did not know. And there were a couple things happening where, everybody's sitting in dispatch where you get the message through VSIN saying the so-and-so agency is down. Our 911 lines are down. You have to use this admin line. We've had times where an agency next door to us, their text to 911 went down. So they forwarded their text to us. And those kind of things kept happening. And I just didn't understand why. I was like, what is going on to make a 911 trunk go down? What is going on to making the text not work? Why do you have to call admin lines? And I got really frustrated by that, because I was supposed to be a trainer and I'm supposed to be training people on how to do that. So that was one of the reasons why I really pushed myself to get ENP, because I was just kind of tired of not really understanding the weeds. Like, I know my job and I'm good at my job and I can explain how to do my job. I just wanted the little level above that.
You want to know the nits and bits on the back end. Yeah, no, I'm the same way. If I was forever taking crap apart when I was a little kid and not getting it back together quite right, or, there's always parts left over, right? But I always wanted to know how things worked and why things worked. And, I think it was a big part of who I am and how I am today. But that's very, very interesting. What's your suggestion to somebody who's kind of sitting on the fence over whether they should take the ENP or whether they should just continue with what they're doing? I mean, that's what a lot of people come to me. It's like, I don't know, it's really hard. It's only got an 80% pass rate. I'm afraid I'm not going to pass. What should I do? What's your advice to them?
Goodness. It was just something, I just really wanted it. When I really understood what it was, and I went on the NINA website and started reading about all what it entailed, it was just information I really wanted to know. And I said, well, this is a really good opportunity to learn all that, because at the end I can take a test and get a cert from it.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you're on the fence about it, do it, but give yourself enough time to study. And that's what I did. I blocked out every night I would do it. And also, there's just so many resources out there. Like, I did everything. I mean, any study group I could find, I signed up for it. All the NINA standards that were relevant to when I was going through the book, I at least attempted to read through them. Some of those 900-page ones, they're
a little dry, let me tell you.
Yeah. And I mean, I constantly, I know my husband found for me these really old AT&T videos of old the old switchboards, the stuff like my grandma did that I remember her telling me about. And so I just wanted to know
everything around the world.
pretty much. And I was just I kind of became enamored with it. It was just something I wanted all of it. I just, any reference or resource I could find, that's what I did, because the book of knowledge is pretty amazing. It's got everything, but it doesn't have everything at the same time.
Yeah.
So that would be my advice. Don't be afraid to find other reliable sources, and definitely give yourself enough time, because I pretty much treated it like a year-long class. And other people may not need that long. You know, I've heard some people that only took a couple weeks or months to study and they were great. But for me, I wanted to give myself enough time and not pressured myself.
Sure. Plus you're blonde. And I can say that because I'm blonde.
Plus I have an 18-month-old who is, well, she's 20 months now, but she requires a lot of attention. And I have a 7-year-old stepdaughter.
Oh my goodness.
So there was a lot of times I'd come home from work and get the kids to bed, do everything. And then I'd go sit in my room for about an hour and a half and study. So I definitely had to.
Man, that's not easy. Taking care of a family, working a full-time job, you know, studying for your ENP. Good thing you do have a supportive husband that could help you out. Or you probably.
I mean, he's pretty great. He's pretty great. And like, I lucked out because it's nerdy stuff and he really likes that kind of stuff too. So we definitely, you know, had a lot of just study sessions together and he was like, well, I know way more than I knew about the 911 industry. I said, good. Yeah, I keep joking him. He's got to go do 3 years in public safety so he can get the required points to take the exam.
Well, you know, he's a firefighter.
I was wondering if that would, I don't know if that would count. Does it?
So I'm on the NENA Institute board. You know, we administer the test, and I lobbied for things like I knew people that had taken care of the PBX at a large company. They did the 911 plan. They did the anti-alley record database updates. They basically managed the 911 in that PBX. And I lobbied through to the board going, you know what? That's all of the information that the 911 network is acting upon. Why doesn't that time count towards?
Right, because they're not dispatchers and they're not in public safety.
Right. And you know what? I won the argument. So I had all kinds of people that worked at private businesses signed up and got their ENP based on them administering
the equivalent.
Yeah.
I because I'm already such a planner, I've printed out the application for my recert with the points, and I'm going through everything to see everything that I can get, even though I've only had this cert for a month. I'm going to get those points so I can do it again in 4 years. And there's a lot.
You must be fun to live with. I could say that. You would not like me.
Loads. Well, that's one of the, I like stuff like this. I'm really proud of myself because I did go out of my comfort zone because I'm not a very technical person and I pushed myself to get it. And now I have it. I'm like, well, what else can I do?
Oh, that's cool.
You know, I've been looking at it though, all the stuff with the boards and being on study groups or being on NENA committees or submitting questions. I know all of those things are good for getting recert points. So I'm going to have to, but I don't, to be honest, I'm not 100% sure who to reach out to even get that kind of stuff or like how to, so I have to look at that.
You know, if you go to nena.org/ENP, all the information is there. Get involved with NENA, and you know, you would make a great candidate for a NENA director at a regional level. You could certainly, once you start to get involved with what you're doing, you're the perfect candidate for the NENA Institute board.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll have to look. I'm working on some stuff right now. I've got a couple little pots in the fire I'm trying to tend to see if I can get there.
Okay.
I'll have to. I borrowed my husband's ear pods, and I've got earrings in the inner of my ear, and they've been falling out this whole time.
No problem. No
okay.
problem. But no, you're the kind of person that makes a great candidate for that kind of thing. And, you know, every year we sit down and we go through, we take the test because we pull 2 tests that are used during the year. And then we take those tests or sit down and go through the questions to make sure they're still right and they're accurate and they're valid and everything. And then new questions get submitted. You're the perfect person, and anybody can submit questions. And by the way, that's another way of getting points. By submitting questions.
I saw that. So I think you have to do 10 at once or something.
I think yeah.
It's like 10 points or 10 questions gets you X amount of points or whatever.
And you can't go, what's the number for 911? So don't do that. Yeah.
I may just put that in as bonus.
Fletcher said this one was all right.
He told me that would get extra Jeopardy points.
Yeah. Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I haven't edited this yet. Just wait.
Oh, I know.
Well, listen, Kristen. I had to call you that once. Listen, Kriss, thanks very, very much. It was a pleasure talking to you today.
I appreciate coming on. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this, so I am definitely nervous. I've never been on a video podcast before.
You did great. Like you're an old pro. So
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Of course, that was mostly because of me, but
right.
Right.
As
long as we're both clear on that, that's fine.
I had a good co-host.
You're too funny. You're too funny. All right. Well, listen. Ever have any questions on anything? You've got a new friend to reach out to, and thanks for
I will. Thank you.
The podcast with me, and thanks for everything that you do and have done in the industry, and your dad as well, and your husband, who's a volunteer firefighter.
Thank you.
Public safety first.
When I get my packet finally done, I'll email it to you. Let you critique it for me.
I would love to. I might steal stuff, but that's okay.
It's okay.
All right. I'll see you later, Kriss. Have a great day.
You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. Well, that wraps up this episode of Off the Cuff, Confessions of an ENP. I'm Mark Fletcher, ENP, and I'm the Vice President of Public Safety Solutions at 911 Inform. Off the Cuff is sponsored by 911 Inform, delivering next-generation 911 solutions to the enterprise today and making every second count. Visit them on the web at 911inform.com. Remember, you can follow me on Twitter at Fletch911. Check out all my blogs and podcasts at Fletch.tv. And be sure to like and subscribe below. That way you'll be immediately notified whenever a new podcast is published. Thanks so much for listening. If you're in public safety, thanks for what you do. Take care and have a great day.